So, today, we're going to talk about something really powerful. It's this idea that education isn't just about memorizing facts, but about learning how to actually live in sync with our planet. We're diving deep into environmental education, and trust me, it's a big deal for our future. But let me just start with this one big question. What if the key to solving our biggest environmental problems isn't some new fancy technology, but just a new way of thinking? That's really the core idea we're going to unpack together. Okay, so to really get a handle on its power, we first have to figure out what environmental education actually is. And it's so much more than just learning about trees and animals. It's about fundamentally rethinking our connection to the planet and seeing where we fit in the grand scheme of things. And this is the part that's so important. Environmental education isn't a single class you just pass and forget. Nope. It's a continuous, lifelong process. It's about understanding how our world is all connected, seeing how our actions can create these huge ripple effects, and then building the awareness and the skills to act responsibly. Like any great mission, environmental education has its big dream, that ultimate goal, and then it has a clear roadmap to actually get there. So let's break it down into two parts, the big picture aims and the practical, on-the-ground objectives. I want you to think of it like climbing a mountain. The aims are the summit. That's the big, beautiful, long-term vision we're all reaching for. But you can't get to the top without a map, right? Well, the objectives are those turn-by-turn directions, the concrete steps that guide you on the journey. You absolutely cannot have one without the other. So, what is that big picture dream? Well, it's really built on 5 main pillars. It all starts with awareness, just knowing what the issues are. From there, it's about building knowledge so you can understand the why behind them. Then, fostering an attitude of care and respect, developing the skills to find real solutions, and finally, inspiring participation to turn all those great ideas into real action. And those big aims, they're achieved through these really concrete objectives. It's about developing sensitivity, that emotional connection to nature. It's about getting real clarity on complex ideas like biodiversity. It's about sharpening our critical thinking skills, building sustainable habits into our daily lives, and ultimately becoming responsible citizens, not just for our communities, but for the entire planet. All right, so we've got the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. Environmental education is guided by this core set of principles. You can think of it as the toolkit that makes the whole learning process so incredibly effective. See, this isn't the kind of learning that stays in just one box. It's interdisciplinary. It pulls from science, economics, ethics, you name it. It also demands a holistic view because, let's face it, in nature, everything is connected. It's a lifelong journey that's all about learning by doing, not just reading from a book. And it's all guided by strong values and a major focus on being action-oriented because, honestly, knowledge without action doesn't change a single thing. And when you start to put all of these principles into practice, you suddenly realize just how massive the scope of environmental education really is. It touches pretty much every single aspect of our modern world. I mean, it touches everything from the pollution in our air and our water to the incredibly urgent mission of protecting the amazing diversity of life on our planet. It makes us completely rethink something as basic as waste management and how we can turn our trash into a resource. And it's right at the heart of how we build a future based on sustainable development, where we balance human progress with the health of our world. Its reach is just enormous. So, this brings us to the most important question of all, doesn't it? Why does this matter so much, right here, right now? And maybe even more importantly, what is your role in this rapidly changing world? Look, here's the bottom line. As our world gets more and more urban, this education is how we find some kind of ecological balance. It's how we build the values we need for a truly eco-friendly lifestyle. It helps sharpen our scientific thinking so we can solve these really tough problems. And, maybe most importantly of all, it empowers the next generation to become the guardians our planet so desperately needs. And this quote just puts it perfectly. Environmental education is not just a subject, but a life skill. Wow. That single idea just reframes everything, doesn't it? This isn't about passing a test. It's about picking up a fundamental tool you need to navigate the 21st century. At the end of the day, when you combine its aims, its objectives, and all its principles, environmental education becomes one of the most powerful tools we have, period. It is a blueprint for building a truly sustainable future for every single one of us. So I'll just leave you with this one question. We've talked about how environmental education is really a life skill. So the real question for you is, what part of that skill, what little habit, what piece of knowledge, what single action, what are you going to choose to use today?